Hey, this is Guillermo Salazar from Saudi. If you want to learn how to use your small axe to build an empire, you should be listening to the Small Axe podcast with my good friend Nico.
Hey guys, it's your boy Nico here from the Small Axe Podcast. I want to show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. You see, not everybody begins their investing career with millions of dollars, a huge network of investors, or the knowledge necessary to become successful in this space, and that's okay. What I focus on here on this podcast is helping you hone your skills, sharpen your tools to become the best investor that you can be. Now, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this show. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to me or the guest, feel free to do so. Love you guys. All right, Small Axe community. I am so excited for today's interview. I got a really cool guest on with me. His name is Guillermo Salazar. We're going to jump into a little bit about his background, and then I'm going to invite him on to share a little bit more about his background, and then we're going to do a deep dive. So get ready to learn some really cool stuff today. Guillermo is a family business member and an expert on corporate governance and family legacy succession. He has served as an advisor for numerous business families on their protocols, generational transition, family vision, and core values for decision-making and conflict resolution. Oh, I love this. Author of several books, including A Road to Triumph in Family Business, lecturer and educator in the field of the family business in Latin America, fellow member of the Family Firm Institute, FFI, in Boston, USA. He has degrees in architecture, a master's in family business management, and a diploma in systemic family therapy. This is awesome, Guillermo. I'm so excited for this. He is the recipient of the 2015 International Achievement Award of the Family Firm Institute. Hey, Guillermo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you very much for the invitation. Glad to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to get you on, and I'm excited to hear more about what you do and how you help people. So can you kind of go a little bit more in depth on your background and how you got to where you are today, and kind of catch the listeners up to a little bit more about yourself?
Okay, well, so it all started when I was born, because I was born in a family business. So I've been I've been a member of a family business since then. So as you can imagine, it's very hard to be a member of a family business without being conducted in all your life that you are going to be part of this business someday. So when I grow up in this business as a professional, I start to wonder, why do we have so many conflicts? If we are a family, why don't we behave like a professional business? And I started to wonder if there was someone who was studying about this. And eventually I found a place where there were people studying how to deal with family business professionalization processes. And then it all started. I start to study on a master's degree in Spain on how to deal with the family businesses, and then I start to study family therapy. That by the end of the day was the main issue that I found that was the origin of all of the conflict, how to deal with the dynamic of the family and how this influences in the behavioral of the professional relationship in the business. So one thing led me to another, and eventually I became an expert on understanding how to help families to deal with the conflict, to define a common purpose, and to enhance their communication skills, which is the base of what I do with the families I work with.
Really cool, Guillermo. First of all, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Venezuela.
Venezuela. And where do you live now?
I live in Houston, Texas.
You've been all over, man. Boston, Venezuela, Spain. This is so cool. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about who you work with typically and what industries they are.
Well, I usually what I do is working with the owners of a business or a wealth or patrimony that is controlled by a family. And the main intention of this family is to transmit that ownership to the next generation. So most of my clients are families in business or families that can lead a certain amount of investment, including real estate, any kind of investment that you can say that is under the control of a family. And usually work with very complex systems. And when I talk about complex, I'm not talking about complicated. I'm talking about systems that are in the family side from second to third to fourth generation. So we are talking about maybe 20, 25, 30 members of a family that are trying to deal with all of these different points of view on the same reality. Or those are business that usually they are the leads in the market that they belong. Any kind of industry, all of the common point is that there is a family in control of the decisions and the strategy of the business or the wealth.
Thanks, Guillermo. And I want to stop for 2 seconds just to allow my listeners to kind of understand what we're talking about here. So, this is what you do is you help families navigate whatever circumstances or troubles they might have for perhaps inheriting a business or having a business together as a family. This can be any type of business, and it's not, you know, only it doesn't exclude real estate. And we're going to actually talk about real estate here on this
Mhm.
show as well at some point. But I just want to kind of paint that picture for our listeners because this is extremely important. I had one other speaker that did something similar, and it kind of this is bringing up memories for me. And I never had a family business. However, I did have, both my parents pass away, and what happens in that situation is you see certain emotions come out, and if there's something emotional within a family and emotional decisions need to be made, whether that be with inheritance or through a business or through real estate or whatever it is, it can cause a lot of strife. And you're saying that you're dealing with family members that could be up to 30 people. I cannot imagine navigating that type of, like, where do you start with that?
Mhm. Well, all starts in improving communication. When you have that amount of people in the same room, the best thing you can do is help them to communicate better. Because many of the situations that we can define as conflicts come from a certain level of communication that doesn't let them to express emotions in a constructive way. So this is the first step. Let's improve our communication. And it all starts on understanding what are your preferences of communication.
Hmm.
Once you understand that, you will understand the preferences of the others, and then you will start to build a constructive way of interchanging information, basically. And on that information is the business information. So once you can separate the emotional part of the communication from the professional part of the information, we can start to work together in planning, in strategy, in purposing, everything that the business is looking for.
This is wonderful. I had this conversation yesterday actually with another real estate investor who said, he doesn't think that people should be leaving properties for their families to inherit because you're leaving them with problems unless they know how to manage the business, because it is a business. So let's say somebody inherited some business or property. Do you, and they don't really know what to do with it, and they don't really have necessarily business skills. Do you help them navigate that as well, either to maintain the business, or do you help them navigate selling it, or is it all of the above?
Mhm. I would say all of the above. Well, it depends. It depends on what you want to do or what do you need to do based on what you have. Um, if we're working together in creating wealth and making it grow, probably you will need a strategy plan for that. If you don't want or you don't know how to, probably you will need someone to help you if you still want to make it grow. But if you don't want, and you don't want to grow anything, you're free to sell it or to give it away. I mean, it's all up to the owner of the thing that you want to do with as an inheritance. So depending on what's the will of the person, what's the willing of doing what you have, we can work anything. If this is a family that wants to um, create a legacy, and when I talk about legacy, it's not only the tangible actives and all the things that you can say that are related with money. It's about the values, the principles, the history that you are trying to transfer to the next generation. Then we can work together in a plan to transfer the legacy.
Very, very important topic for a lot of my listeners. We talk about this legacy wealth, generational wealth all the time, but it's not necessarily implemented. And I've read studies and articles that show, that the majority of wealth is lost within one generation if it's not managed right. So this is where you come in. And you
Mhm.
mentioned the first step is really to open up the lines of communication, establish the proper communication for this family. Is there a defined second step, or do you have to take it case by case?
Well, usually the second phase of this work start on defining the purpose of which is what we are talking about. Defining the purpose means, are we all do we all agree that we want to keep on going together? Because if it's so let's build what we call the shared dream. What's the dream that we are going to share as individuals? Is there a place where we want to go? If that place exists, can we spot that? And if so, what's the path to arrive to that spot? So once you share a dream, you define what's this special place you want to go. That's the purpose of this wealth. And once you have that, the only thing you have to go is go through the path.
Awesome, Guillermo. And at what point do you begin speaking with these families? Is it prior to or towards the end of somebody's life, after somebody has passed, or when do you come in?
Well, there isn't a specific moment or part of your life cycle when I arrive. Usually, when the succession process is starting to appear, and it can be in any stage of the succession. Those are processes that can last 5, 10 years. It's not an event. It's not a punctual event. This is something that start to grow, and at some point maybe they can be aware that this is too hard to handle by ourselves. Let's work with someone that can help us. So it can happen anytime. It doesn't have necessary to be in a specific point. But all of this start with a conversation. And this conversation ends with one question. Do we really want to keep on going together? Because you will always have the option to separate. And that's an option that you have to evaluate. I mean, that's a possibility. That's legal. I mean, that's why the divorce exists. But most of the families think that they are condemned to keep on going together because that's the only way. And I always invite my prospect to think about it. Let's think that maybe separate lives is a kind of life.
It's wonderful to think about it that way. I mean, it's if somebody feels trapped and then you come in with a solution, like perhaps I'm sure you've dealt with many different scenarios, but perhaps somebody just wants to out and they want to buy out, they want to get out and take some cash and run, and somebody wants to maintain the business. And I'm sure you help, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you help navigate those situations.
Yes. I mean, my specialty in advising is not separating, but I can lead them to the specialist on doing so. But if you want to keep on going together, I can help you. I can help you to create that path and set the rules, which is the third step. Once you are aware of where you want to go, let's start on working with the rules of what we need to do to go out of the track and keep in the same movement together.
When you establish rules, who is going to be accountable to maintain those rules? Like, what if you're out of the picture after, I don't know how long you work. That's another question. Let's say you're out of the picture after a year. Would they need to call you back in to mediate?
Well, usually what I try to do is to help them to get some independency from an outsider of the process. But once we start to work, and usually this is around 6 months working together on setting all the rules and creating the most important part of this process, which is the family council, which is the forum where the family reunites and they meet together and talk about the things that are not set on the rules, because most of the thing happens without you projecting that part in the shared dream. So in that place, you will start to learn how to deal in a professional way to make the right decisions in order to get the shared dream. So what I help them to do is to behave in a professional way, and it's very simple. I mean, the secret is you have to be uh, you only need order uh, to make the right decision. So you need to create an agenda. You need to follow the agenda. You need to start at the right time, and you need to be responsible on the things that you commit with the rest of the group, and someone has to follow that commitment. And that's all. That's all. You will learn to do that. You will learn to behave in a professional way. Although we are all families, and family usually has this, informal way to deal with issues, but we will try to transform that kind of behavior in a professional one. So once you have that, the advisor can easily be removed of the process, but usually we are invited from time to time, to take a look and see what's going on and how can we help to improve what we have done with them.
Awesome, Guillermo. Is that the last step?
That should be one of the last steps. But as I mentioned previously, those are very complex systems. And those systems usually need some other kind of improvement in their structure. So we can work in different processes. There is a high range of things that we can keep on doing depending on what the focus you are pointing to. So we can work in preparing the next generation. We can work on shareholders agreement. We can work in creating a family office. We can do a lot of things that it will depend on what you're looking for.
That's wonderful. Um, Before I continue with my questions, do you like where do you operate and how? So if I know that you mentioned you're in Texas, and let's say somebody in California wanted to use your services, do you fly out there? Is it Zoom, or do you not work over there?
No, I do work in. Most of my clients are here in the U.S. and in Latin America and Europe. But I'm just a part of a team. We are a global team and we work all around the world. So if I am not available to attend, certain meetings or work with certain client because of the geographical position, there is always another advisor that can help you with whatever you're looking for. And those are usually hybrid sessions. Most of the work can be done online, but the real, medular things that need to be solved, they need to be solved in person. Especially when you work with families, there is a lot of information that is happening in the same room with the non-verbal language that we use every time that we meet. And it's easier for us, for the advisor to travel where the family is and not the family where the advisor is. So we can work in both formats. The presential one, which is the in-person, is always better, but there are certain issues that we can work online.
Got it. This is really cool stuff. Now, let's say I have friends, and this is a real scenario, right? That are not old, right? But they have a good amount of properties, and they're in their 50s, and they have these properties, and they would love to be able to, let's say, have their children take them over, and their children are only in their 20s at this point. Um, do you come in at some point to kind of help families like that help transition a business prior to any event? Like you mentioned, there's not necessarily an event that happens, but set them up for this legacy.
Mhm. Yes, that kind of things can be done if they are looking for to transfer this ownership to the next generation. Usually, what we try to focus is on helping the next generation to be at least a good owner and a good partner, because we don't know if they have the expertise to manage the business. Although it probably is not that complicated business, but maybe if you have a business, you will need some minimum skills of management. But let's pretend that you don't have even that skill, or you are not interested in managing this
Mhm.
ownership. You need to be a good partner. You need to be a good owner. You need to know what you have. You need to fall in love in what you have, because if there is no emotional connection, and the way to do the emotional connection is to creating the legacy, is to understanding the history behind that wealth. If you're not related in an emotional way, you will sell that ownership on the first opportunity that you will have.
Yeah.
So if the family is looking for transfer that legacy and create, you know, uh, impact in society, for example, or really deliver value on more than one generation, you will need to create the emotional bond with that ownership.
That sounds like a lot of work and maybe not for everybody. Very interesting stuff, Guillermo. Well,
Yes,
how
I have to admit, this is not for everybody. But there are other advisors for the other kind of interest.
right to separate, as you mentioned prior. How would you define legacy?
Legacy is a package of information that you want to transmit to the next generation, which consists in physical objects, but also emotional memories that will help you to define your own values. So once you have a legacy in a family, it will be easier for you to create an identity as a person in relationship with that legacy. So that's legacy.
That's a great explanation, Guillermo. Thank you. Okay, so let's now say that we began the process and we feel comfortable. But you mentioned something earlier which I thought really struck a chord with me. There are what when you get people, there's certain language that people use within family structures, and it's kind of like there are less boundaries, right, with between family members. Have you have you ever, and you don't have to answer this if you're not at liberty to, have you ever dealt with really a lot of conflict in families?
Yes, I deal with a lot of conflict. I will say that you need the conflict if you are looking for changes. When you have a system that doesn't have any kind of conflict, that's scary, because somehow something weird is happening. People need to talk. People need to differ in opinion. This is the only way to make the things to change. Otherwise, there will not be any kind of change in the system. So yes, we need conflict, and we like to requalify the concept of conflict, because this is for us the opportunity to explore change. So once you have the correct level of communication that is needed to deal with conflict, you can see wonderful changes in a system like a family. But sometimes the family doesn't have the level of communication for that, and sometimes you can be stuck in trying to help a family to go through a process, and that's a risk that you have to evaluate in the diagnosis phase of the work. And sometimes when we detect that there is a high level of probability that this family doesn't have the level of communication that we need to deal with the conflict, probably we will decline to work with them. And we will
Oh,
suggest to do another thing, maybe a separation, maybe we will contact them with very good lawyers, probably.
very interesting, Guillermo. This is great stuff. All right, cool. Let's I know that my listeners are probably excited to speak with somebody like you. How could they get in touch with you?
Well, you can visit my webpage, which is guillermosalazar.com. You will find there the way to get in contact with me. Also in my business webpage, exaudi.com. I don't know if we can we write down, because the URL is not that easy to say. But
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be in the show notes for sure. But is it EXAUDI?
online.com, exactly.
X.
exaudionline.com. You can also contact us that way.
Awesome, Guillermo. Now, is there anything else I missed before I hit you with my final and heavy question?
Well, I think that it will be interesting if you want to know more about what the kind of work we are doing. There is a book I published a couple of years ago, A Road to Triumph in Family Business, which is available in Amazon. I don't know if there will be the opportunity for people to get the link for this book. There you will understand what's the process and how you can start thinking on, if you are willing to start a process like this, you will understand what should be the different steps that you will go through.
Yeah. So here's what I'll do when I after this is published, it'll be in the show notes, and then I will share the link when I post my social media content. But what's really interesting is that, I see that there's definitely a lot of my listeners that are interested in something like this. So they're going to want to reach out to you right away. I'm really glad to see that you have a book written, because a lot of my listeners are avid readers, and they're going to want to jump on that opportunity as well. So what is it called again? Road to Triumph?
A Road to Triumph in Family Business.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, Guillermo, I'm excited to share that with my listeners. So let's do this. Let me get the final question in here, and then we're going to wrap it up. So let's imagine it was 100 years from now. You have great grandchildren, and they are enjoying your legacy and continuing on with your business. Let's say now that they wanted to write a book about you. What would you want them to title this book?
Well, I think that it will be interesting if that could be named as The Advisor's Journey. And it should be based on the hero's journey, which is the perfect structure to tell a story. And the way that we work with families is telling stories, most of them of the founders of the businesses. So all of those structures of stories are made with the same pattern of telling. So my story will be, how do I can apply that pattern to my profession, and say that advisor's journey.
The advisor's journey. I love it. All right, Guillermo, it has been a pleasure learning about you and your business, and what you provide and how you provide value to the communities out there and to the different family members and family structures and businesses, and how you keep things intact and keep legacy going. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Nico, for the invitation and for this opportunity to share with your followers.
All right. Hey, Small Axe community. I would like to say thank you for listening to another episode of my podcast, where we show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. Now, if you liked what you heard, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. Also, if you want to get in touch with me, go to my website at smalaxecommunities.com. Book a call with me. And until the next episode, keep sharpening those axes.